Hello, 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 and welcome to day 50. Let's share this quickly. So this Leviticus 19 to 21, there was something I wanted to say yesterday about Leviticus 18. So I will actually quickly go back to that. I'll quickly go back to Leviticus 18 because I had wanted to point something out and couldn't yesterday because the old guy was not having it. Forbidden sexual practices, yes. So I had wanted to talk about how God is interacting with the people. God has come and Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, down to Joseph, and then in Egypt. And then there's like 400 years of not much. Is it 400 years? Yeah, I think it was about 430 years, I think specifically, of not much. We don't hear anything. Even when Moses goes to sort of liberate them, they've come to a point where, where is God? If God was there, why are we suffering? Why are we being enslaved? And so they, gone without um, the hand of God, so to speak, and had developed a culture, had developed a tradition, had developed a society that was not necessarily informed by a love or dedication to God. Right? They formed a society that was enslaved and surrounded by oppressors and by pagan peoples. Um, and so, where they would have had the stories of old of how God interacted with their forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, the actions that he did through them, I doubt that they had any real relationship with God at the point, at the point now where God is working through that relationship and working through that society, and he's reforming the society. That's what I'm noticing anyway. And so when it comes down to these sexual practices, the reason I want to spend a little bit of time on them, that I wanted to do that yesterday, but then I'm doing it today, is a lot of the argument is about how the forefathers had multiple wives. Abraham married his half sister. That's one thing, Sarah. Like we can't we let's not shy away from the facts. Um, Isaac had Rebecca, which was cool, but he married Leah and Rachel, sisters, and then he had relations with their handmaidens, as did Abraham. Um, and then there was the whole thing of Judah and his son's wife sleeping with her, Reuben sleeping with his dad's concubine, all of these things that happened but aren't necessarily affirmed or endorsed by the word. And so when someone comes around and says, yeah, Christianity endorses polygamy, they're betraying the fact that either they haven't read at best, or at worst, they're just trying to be deceptive, because the Bible never endorses those things. The Bible never affirms those things. And when we come to Leviticus 18, and God is actually speaking to what he wants for their understanding of sexual relations, actually, he removes a bunch of those things. So he talks about never having sexual relations with close relatives. I'm not even going to be exhaustive. I encourage us to read it. But he talks about never having sexual relations with your half sister. Abraham would have been guilty of this. Um, he then talks about uncles, aunties, all of that. Daughter-in-law. Judah would have been guilty of this, sleeping with Tamar. Um, and then then look at today, society today, right? They don't have sexual relations with both a woman and her daughter. There's a dude on social media who, as of earlier this year, I think, was having kids by a woman and her daughter. And that's a whole thing that's being celebrated by certain types of people. Um, while your wife is living, do not marry her sister, Jacob. Um, and then adultery, your neighbor's wife, don't do that. Um, the fact that we've got sexual sort of rules and there's this Molech, again, sort of the fact that that's tied into here suggests that, again, sort of the pagan people of the time, Molech was probably some idol or god that they did certain things for, like that. And then you've got homosexuality, you've got bestiality, all of these things being explicitly said to be wrong, explicitly said to not be part of, those that are in the community of Israel. And again, in comparison to the rules regarding food, these are significantly different. There's the food which is, these are detestable to you, don't eat them. And then there is this, and later on we'll go to find that the punishments for them are also different, right? Some result directly in death, some result in being cut off, some result um in uh in ostracization. Um but I wanted to point that out. The Bible explicitly condemns some of these things, and the fact that they're in the Bible, which is a recording of historical acts, doesn't mean that the Lord actually endorsed, Abraham and Sarah, or Abraham, Isaac, and I'm sorry, Jacob, and his two sisters, and they were before the law. So there's an element of grace, but then there's also the fact that God is now molding the society more to His liking, where they didn't have that before, and so we carry on with that in Leviticus 19, and that's today's reading, holiness and personal conduct. And God's talking about idols, not making idols for them yourselves. Again, a practice of the people that would have been surrounding them, a practice that Israel might have picked up themselves, a practice that even Rachel would have. So when Rachel was leaving her father's house with Jacob, remember that she stole her father's idols. So that behavior would have been there from before, and God is now sort of gradually removing all of these things. And that's another thing, right? Is how God is gradual in His molding of this society. He is so patient with them. Um, and is not introducing these things, and he's not taking them from A to Z. He's like stepping them through and gradually removing the things that are not of his will. Um, and then, again, sort of guiding their morality, don't have unfair scales. Don't spread slanderous gossip among your people. Again, all things that we can look at our society now and see, if we are not guilty of it ourselves, lots of people that are. Um, you must obey all my decrees. God is now bringing them more and more into alignment with what He desires and what He wants. Do not defile your daughter by making her a prostitute. Lot would have been guilty of this when Lot offered up his daughters instead of the guest, when the people of Sodom and Gomorrah wanted to come and rape them. And again, it's this. These would have been part of their culture, part of their society, part of the norm, and God is gradually removing all of these things and molding them to a holy society that's representative of Him. You know, Coming to treat foreigners well, treat them better. Because they were once foreigners. Um, yeah, like I said, the scales and weights must be accurate. Um, Again, setting up a people that are, that live by a certain code and live by a certain morality. Um, and then he talks about some of the punishments that come to those that do some of these things. Anyone who dishonors father or mother must be put to death. Such a person is guilty of a capital offense. That's a good reason. Yes, yeah, mom points out exactly. Yeah, people try and use the fact that Abraham or Jacob is the best example, had two wives as excuse for them also having two wives, and will say silly things like, "Oh, men are not made for monogamy," and all of this, as if God didn't create just Adam and Eve in the garden. and call that good, not what we do nowadays. But yeah, anyway, welcome, Mum. Welcome, Dad. Thank you for joining again. Um, you know, um, and the other thing that I really like about this, the punishments. Not that I like the punishments. The punishments are ultimate. Having sex with one of his father's wives is a capital offense. So Reuben should have been killed. Unsurprising then that Reuben lost the privilege of the firstborn, as we pointed out back then. Anyway, um, but it shows God's attitude towards these things, right? As far as God is concerned, a man sleeping with one of his father's wives should be put to death. Like, that's how he feels about it. If a man practices homosexuality, both have committed a detestable sin. They must both be put to death, for they are guilty of a capital offense. You know, um, I'm not entirely sure how this ties in with the sacrifices. Um, we miss you too, Mom. We have to go and visit Tanita. We have to go and visit. Um, so I imagine, and I probably need to look into this a bit more. If a man does some of these things, um, I imagine if they are repentant and they bring a sacrifice, that they might be forgiven. I'm not sure. Um, but, as far as if they take the weight of their sin on their own merit, I imagine then this is what you get. You are put to death. But I because these sacrifices also cover like sins that you become aware of and sins that you've done. Um, I wonder if there's a grace where if they bring a sacrifice, then they're able to escape this, because well, I'd have to look into that a little bit more. Either way, um, yeah, these go to show at the very least how God feels about it, and how God feels about a thing should be important to us because He's God and we claim to love Him. You know, and ultimately, you must be holy because I, the Lord, am holy, and I've set you apart from all other people to be my very own. So God is making them, His people, making them Him, and because they are His, they should be holy because He is holy. And then we go on to some instructions for the priests. And again, the priests and the instructions that they're given go to show the gravity of the responsibility that they hold as priests. Remember, this is an entire line, the tribe of the Levites, and they're given specific instructions as priests. Now, we being made a royal priesthood, we I'm not saying we go back to the Old Testament and follow the Old Testament laws, but I'm saying that we should recognize the gravity of that. It's not just a nice line in the song, it's not just a nice psalm. Being made a royal priesthood comes with certain responsibilities, and I think we can look back at this and at the very least see the intentionality and see the the weight of the responsibility that being a priest was on the people, the tribe of the Levites. And we don't have to then take that burden for ourselves. We, of course, are no longer under the law, but under grace. But I think it gives us an appreciation for what it means to be a priest of the Lord, which we all are. We are kings and priests in Christ Jesus. Um, and so, yeah, that was today's reading. I'm sort of rushing a little bit because I can see Zachary stirring. I'm watching him on the monitor. Um, and so tomorrow's reading is 22 to 23 in Leviticus. And God willing, I'll be here tomorrow and we will go through that. Thank you so much for watching. I really do hope this encourages you to pick up the Bible and spend some time in it. It's so easy, but it's so beneficial as well. And so, yeah. Have a good rest of your evening, and I'll catch you later. Peace.